The clock is ticking on a decision that could define the future of the Philadelphia Eagles, my friend. And the number you need to burn into your memory is $43.3 million. That is the financial hole the Eagles fall into if they get the timing wrong on this move. We're talking about a trade that is going to change everything for this franchise, involving one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, a quarterback who needs to prove his worth, and a destination that not many people saw coming. But first, if you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now, because this story is moving fast, and I'm going to keep you ahead of everybody else. Here's the deal. According to ESPN insider Adam Schefter, the trade of A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots is the most likely outcome of this whole situation, but it is not going to happen during this week's draft. The reason is purely financial, and this is where Howie Roseman's strategy comes into play. If the Eagles move Brown before June 1st, they swallow a dead cap hit of $43.3 million entirely in the 2026 cap. But if they wait until after June 1st, that number drops all the way down to just $16.3 million, and the remainder gets split between 2026 and 2027. That's nearly $27 million of difference on the salary sheet. For a team that still wants to compete for the Super Bowl, that difference is enormous. But who is A.J. Brown and how did things get to this point? My friend, the story here goes way beyond the spreadsheets. Brown has 6 1,000-yard receiving seasons in his career. He was an essential piece of the team that won Super Bowl Elas back in February of 2025. In April of 2024, he signed a 3-year, $96 million extension with the Eagles, $84 million of it fully guaranteed. On paper, it was one of the best wide receivers in the world committing long-term to Philadelphia. But then the problems started, and they had nothing to do with football. Now let's talk about what Brown actually did on the field in 2025, because even in the middle of all that noise, the production was real. He hauled in 78 receptions on 120 targets for 1,003 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, finishing tied for 19th in the NFL in receptions and receiving yards. His PFF receiving grade of 85.9 ranked 11th among 81 qualified wide receivers. That is a top 15 wide receiver performance by any objective measure. The frustrating part for Brown, and the part that fueled the drama, is that those numbers felt like they should have been bigger. He averaged 12.9 yards per reception, but when teams played zone coverage against him, which happened on over 56% of Philadelphia's offensive plays, his yards per target dropped significantly, and he caught only 2 of his 7 touchdowns against that coverage. He was open. He was dominant when used. The question was whether he was being used enough, and in the right situations. That gap between what he was producing and what he felt capable of producing is what broke everything open. Throughout the 2025 season, Brown made no secret of his frustration. He posted Bible scriptures on X with messages clearly directed at his situation. He made comments during a live stream saying that playing Madden NFL 26 was the only way to find highlights of him. In October, he posted on Instagram with the caption, "Using me but not using me." The fanbase got angry, the locker room got uncomfortable, and his relationship with Jalen was put on public trial. And you know what's most telling? Every time Brown mentioned who he communicated well with, head coach Nick Sirianni, former offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, he never once mentioned Jalen. Not a single time. According to the bombshell report from ESPN's Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, internal team sources described nobody saw open arguments. Nobody saw confrontations in the locker room. But the silence between the two became a bigger problem than any blow-up ever could have been. When the best wide receiver and the starting quarterback of a Super Bowl championship team can no longer communicate effectively, something fundamental has broken. And the direct consequence of that is exactly what we are seeing right now. A trade that most sources consider inevitable. And why the Patriots? The Mike Vrabel connection is the thread that runs through this entire story. Vrabel was Brown's head coach with the Tennessee Titans from 2019 through 2021. The two have an established relationship built on trust, and Vrabel is now in New England trying to build a team around quarterback Drake May. Brown, with 6 1,000-yard seasons worth of game experience, would be exactly the kind of elite wide receiver that May needs alongside him to develop as a franchise quarterback. Vrabel said publicly that the goal is to strengthen the roster, and when a reporter asked him directly about Brown, the head coach did not deny the interest. He simply said no deal had been struck. My friend, that is not a denial. Schefter was crystal clear. The Eagles are Roseman reportedly asked for a first-round pick and a second-round pick in return. But the preference now is for future assets, which makes complete sense when you understand that the Eagles already have 8 picks in this draft and do not urgently need more selections for this cycle. What Roseman is doing is stockpiling ammunition for the next 2 years, while the team reconfigures around Hurts and the new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. The real question becomes, what do the Eagles do on the offensive side once Brown is gone? My friend, Devonta Smith remains one of the best wide receivers in the league when used correctly. The Eagles also recently traded for Dontavian Wicks from the Packers and gave him an extension, a young receiver who gives the offense a new weapon to develop. Hollywood Brown, despite his physical limitations, brings speed and creativity in his roots. Tight end Dallas Goedert, when healthy, is among the best at the position in the entire NFL. The new offensive system under Patullo in his first year as play caller will demand creativity and variety in the passing game. Brown's departure will force Jalen Hurts to spread the ball around the field more, and paradoxically that may benefit the offense, because part of the criticism directed at the Eagles' passing attack was the excessive dependence on Brown, who was covered in zone on the majority of plays and saw his efficiency dip because of it. Taking a step back, there is one dimension of this situation that has not been fully resolved. Other teams can still jump into the mix. Schefter made it clear that the Patriots are out front, but that another team could surface before June 1st. Brown reportedly gave the Eagles a list of preferred destinations: the Patriots, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Buffalo Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs. That list is strategic. Every single one of those teams has an elite or ascending quarterback with the offensive infrastructure to let Brown shine. If the Chargers or the Chiefs come in with a more aggressive offer than what New England is putting on the table, Roseman could flip the whole thing at the last minute. And with 2027 and 2028 picks as the currency, any one of those teams can put together an attractive proposal. But let's talk about what this means for Jalen Hurts, because that is ultimately the biggest storyline running underneath all of this. 2026 is the final year of guaranteed money on Hurts' contract, $51.5 million. Internal team sources told ESPN that everyone from Jeffrey Lurie on down is on the same page when it comes to the need for Hurts to produce at a higher level. Roseman has not extended the quarterback's deal yet. The pressure is real. And losing Brown, as much as it may be the right call from a cap and locker room standpoint, puts even more of a spotlight on Hurts going into this season. If the Eagles come out firing with Devonta Smith as the #1 receiver and a fresh offensive system, Hurts has a chance to silence every single critic in one swing. If the offense stumbles, the conversation about his future will dominate the back half of the season. With the A.J. Brown trade to the Patriots considered likely for after June 1st, future picks heading to Howie Roseman in 2027 and 2028, and Jalen Hurts entering the most important season of his career, the question I want you to answer is this: did the Eagles make the right call letting Brown go? And without him, does Hurts have what it takes to prove he deserves the contract extension that still hasn't come? Drop your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.